So IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, which sits under the UN, has put out several reports on renewable energy policies for cities, and there are many that talk about the lessons learned from various countries and cities. If I have to read that a little bit from my iPad here, it's about experiences in China, experiences in Costa Rica, experiences in Uganda, China, Uganda, and somebody else, and so on. But I'll focus on 3 reports. The second one is on buildings, which I recorded first, so you will see some wordings as if that's coming first, but I switched the order to have power sector come first. So this is renewable energy policies for the power sector, which is very critical. So as you can imagine, cities are big users of renewable energy for buildings, heating, cooling, transportation, commercial activities, and of course for all other applications, and sanitation, wastewater treatment, health, hospitals, etc. But the power sector itself needs to have policies for making sure that we are following good practices in terms of reducing emissions and achieving the goal of mitigation for renewable energy goals, and also adaptation, cross-cutting themes. So this we will read again in the second podcast, but it's okay to repeat these points. The significance of cities in deploying renewable energy. The boundaries of urban policy making are defined by the legal and regulatory authority vested in governments, not only at the municipal level but also at the state, provincial, and national levels. So these depend on countries. So these boundaries are drawn in different ways across countries. Some are governed in a highly centralized way, while in others there is a considerable degree of devolution of authority. So how decentralized it is or centralized depends on where you are. IRENA's continuing work on renewable energy in cities has identified several dimensions of cities' roles in shaping climate adaptation and mitigation efforts, and as such in accelerating the deployment of renewable energy solutions as a key pillar of national sustainable energy targets. Cities can be target setters, planners, and regulators. They are often owners and thus operators of municipal infrastructure. Cities are always direct consumers of energy as well, and therefore aggregators of demand, and can be conveners and facilitators and financiers of renewable energy projects. Finally, local authorities can play an important role in raising awareness by informing citizens of target setting and planning, and also by giving citizens an opportunity to provide comments and other inputs. We've already talked about the importance of giving agency to the people who are being affected by these interventions. Adaptation and mitigation are basically interventions which force socio-technical transitions. Not everybody has agency, so when these transitions are imposed which affect lives, livelihoods, and so on, the importance of getting citizens an opportunity to provide comments and other inputs is very critical. We have looked at the gender issue part of this, as well as indigenous knowledge and so on. So we'll look again, I think, in both the next 2 podcasts on this one. Roles of municipal governments in the energy transition is like a choir which focuses on target setting and planning by cities. Cities as regulators, operators, financiers, conveners, and facilitators, and awareness builders, as well as demand aggregators. Demand aggregation allows for policies, regulations, management, sustainability, and even things like intermittency, tiding over, etc. Right? So chapter 1 here, urban policies for renewables in the power sector. I will have my iPad here and cheat a little on what the chapter is all about without putting all the details into the slides. So this is looking at sourcing municipal power from renewables from Vancouver, Dubai, Boston, Mass, and Grafenwohr in Germany, and so on, and looks at deploying solar street lighting, which is quite common now everywhere. Examples are shown from Sydney, Pittsburgh, Lalitpur, India, Lugazi Is it India or Bangladesh? Nepal, sorry. And 1.3 is on capturing methane from landfills and turning food waste into power. So here it is. Though European cities are in the lead, methane capture is spreading to other continents as well. So one successful implementation by one city can then spread to other cities in the same country, continent, and across continents as well. Landfills are a big problem. Cities produce massive amounts of waste, which they typically try to send elsewhere. New York City will send it to New Jersey and so on and so forth. But if you find a way to use those landfills in a meaningful way for energy, then obviously you are adding some value as well. Okay, so we looked at that, and then we will mention again that capturing methane from landfills and turning food waste into energy is also happening in Novato, Mumbai, India, Chonburi, Thailand, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, Johannesburg. I'm mentioning the cities because you can see how widespread they are. Milan, Italy has been pioneer of segregated food waste collection since 2012. About 140,000 tons are collected annually from all inhabitants and businesses. Of course, you have to worry about things like life cycle analysis to see if segregating, collecting, converting to energy, then worrying about the emissions from methane consumption itself. Are they really worth it, or are we just subsidizing these seemingly good acts which may end up actually not reducing the emissions so much? So one has to be always careful about those. Moving on to urban policies for distributed renewables generation. This looks at rooftop solar PV, which we said before is, or we'll say in the second podcast, as a major source of renewable energy in cities. Wind hasn't caught up yet. Maybe some fancy new designs will come up for small scale windmills that'll make them more widespread. So look at the report looks at Seoul, Tokyo, and San Francisco, New York City, Atlanta, and so on. And then it looks at net metering and net billing as policy options, policy levers. Examples from Cape Town, from New Delhi, from Bangalore, Indian cities, and so on. So we'll come back and look at this using simulating tools to assess the solar PV potential of a city. Every time you want to invest, plan, implement, and strategize on solar PV, it helps to have a good sense of what is the potential for harvesting solar radiation in terms of number of sunny days, cloudy days, rainy days, snow cover, etc., etc. Given their rapidly declining costs, decentralized rooftop photovoltaic technologies are becoming increasingly appealing options for many cities. This is of particular relevance in developing countries where many residents need more accessible, affordable, and reliable electricity options. Solar PV rooftop simulator tools are already available to support municipal decision making in the cities of many developed economies, especially in Europe and North America. Simulators help to determine the optimal power mix and ensure its long-term viability in the context of urban energy planning processes and existing rules and regulations such as tariffs, tax credits, and other incentives. Okay. In a recent report, the IRENA examines the evolution of simulators for urban PV deployment, ranging from the household level to large-scale arrays undertaken by municipal authorities and other large entities. Could be a large mall or housing complex and so on. In the past, the significant costs and need for expertise to develop such simulators limited their use to advanced economies with well-established electricity markets and appropriate research and development capabilities. However, due to an evolving technology landscape, solar simulators can now be deployed to maximum benefit anywhere in the world at an affordable cost. So it saves a lot of work in terms of planning effective and efficient solar PV deployment, right? IRENA is currently designing a pilot solar city simulator called Solar City Engine in the Ugandan city of Kasisi and in Zhangjiakou. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right. Anyway, the solar simulator, here it is shown as a report. Solar simulator for Kasisi addresses purchase and leasing financing options for three situations. Individual homeowners seeking to compare rooftop PVs to alternatives, so you can do it as a experiment, observational system simulation experiment. I'm using not a very rigorous word. Estate promoters examining the prospect for a small community with a group of buildings, and municipalities investigating the cost of different policy options across the entire city. Okay, the third part of this book looks at empowering communities and people. We looked at a little bit on social housing, for example. So here in chapter 3, then we look at strengthening public ownership and generating facilities. Examples from Aberdeen, Bristol, Nottingham, Barcelona, and so on. And we'll read a box. Actually, this chapter has several boxes. Examples are also from Hamburg, Boulder. I'm just saying examples because there are actually some details in how these cities are different in the way they empowered communities and people on engaging in renewable energies for the power sector as well. Okay, supporting community renewables. Examples from Nagano, Tokyo, Greater Sudbury, and so on. So maybe I should read this as well. Municipalities can support these efforts financially and through regulations. Such models include community solar power purchase agreement. We looked at an aspect of this for Portland, Oregon, or we will look in the next report, I'm sorry. The utility sponsored model. On-bill crediting, special purpose entity which involves individuals or companies joining in a business enterprise to develop community solar project. The non-profit buyback, buy a brick model, in which donors contribute to shared installation owned by charitable non-profit organizations. Solar purchasing cooperatives, and the community choice aggregation model. Okay, are there any other? So these examples range from, again, Japan, US, Australia, and so on. Okay, and there are also collaborative initiatives. So community choice model, we'll look at that. We'll look at tables on collaborative initiatives to promote renewable energy and climate actions in urban areas. You know, when TV readers read news, they have a teleprompter right in front, so it looks as if, it seems as if they're looking in the camera and speaking. I don't have such fancy arrangements, so I'm turning my head, which is not good practice, but this is just fun and we are doing it for free. You are learning probably just for fun. I'm teaching just for fun, so it's okay, right? So let's then plow through this on empowering communities and people with more information. Bristol retrofitting, innovative technologies for everyone. Bristol City Council in the UK developed a program named Bristol Retrofitting, innovative technologies for everyone. So basically it's about community empowering and people. So do I want to read all of it? Yeah, let me go ahead and do it. Bright was supported, so that's Bristol Retrofitting, innovative technologies for everyone. Bright, to articulate both climate and energy targets and social priorities. Bright was supported financially by the European Investment Bank's European Local Energy Assistance Facility, so upfront costs were dealt with in this way. Bristol was the first British city to develop its own municipal energy company, Bristol Energy, with the goal of providing local, low-cost and low-carbon energy to residents and improving building energy efficiency. So with proper financing, they started their own company. It was accordingly the first UK local authority to invest in its own large-scale wind turbines in 2015. Since 2017, the City Council also owns the 4.2 megawatt Avonmouth, knowing the Brits, they might be pronouncing differently, solar photovoltaic park in Avonmouth. Together, these facilities can supply more than 4,000 homes with energy and avoid over 7,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. It would have been nice to know that as a percentage of their total emission, but nonetheless, in addition, Bristol Energy procures renewable energy from more than 140 generators across the country, so they are the aggregators and meeting demand in this way. Renewable electricity accounts for 60% of the city's overall fuel mix, which is great. The City Council also supported the development of the Bristol Energy Cooperative, which encourages citizens to collectively invest in local energy production units. So wind is involved here as well. Defining community energy. Another example, the IRENA Coalition for Action defines community energy as the economic and operational participation and ownership by citizens or members of a defined community, be it at the village, city, or regional level, in a renewable energy project, regardless of the size and scope of the project. Community energy involves at least two of the following three elements. Local stakeholders own the majority or all of a renewable energy project. Voting control rests with a community-based organization, or the majority of social and economic benefits are distributed locally. That ensures these equity, justice, inclusiveness, and so on, resilience. Among the diverse approaches around the world, successful models emphasize a project's local, social, and economic benefits, including job creation along the value chain, revenue flows, improved energy access, and other contributions to human welfare. Okay. Box 5. Community choice in Athens, Ohio. Residents of Athens, Ohio have access to a community choice program offered by the Southeast Ohio Public Energy Council. SOPEC is a council of regional governments that provides public energy services to the region. The City of Athens Athens' 2017 Sustainability Action Plan includes the goal of reducing municipal energy use by 20% by 2020, and you can go and see if that happened. Okay, I won't read more, but community choice aggregation is seen in Athens as a way to help local utility dollars stay local. Instead of buying from outside and sending money out, you do it locally and then use the money to do local, awareness, training workers for future technologies, and tiding over livelihoods that are affected by these transitions, as we said. Few tables, I won't read all the details, but collaborative initiatives to promote renewable energy and climate action in urban areas. Energy cities is an example here from the EU. So includes membership from the European associations, and objectives and achievements are reported here, so you can go back and follow them up. So representing cities' interests and influencing European Union energy, environmental, and urban policies, developing and promoting initiatives through exchange of experiences, transfer of know-how, and implementation of joint projects. I always like to point out that with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the perturbations to the gas market, Europe actually found a lot of its vulnerabilities in their reliance on renewables. Maybe they were overestimating the role of renewables in their lives, because a lot of steps backward happened, including burning coals, buying gas from Norway and US, and so on and so forth. So we have to be careful about plans and implementations and actual outcomes in terms of moving away from fossil fuels. The city's Climate Finance Leadership Alliance, so this is 64 organizations as of 2021, including United Nations agencies, multilateral development banks, governments and donor agencies, banks and financial institutions, non-governmental organizations, and academic institutions. They are catalyzing and accelerating investment in low-carbon and climate-resilient infrastructure in cities and urban areas. Global District Energy in Cities initiatives. It's coordinated by UN Environment with local and national governments in 14 countries, as well as private sector companies and industry associations. So they support national and municipal governments to develop, retrofit, or scale up district energy systems, assessing potential, demonstration projects, best practice dissemination, and so on. Continued table here: initiatives and year founded, transformative actions program, renewable energy cities and regions network, and Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy from 2016. So as of early 2021, about 10,600 cities representing 1 billion people in 138 countries in all continents were involved in this initiative. So mobilizing and supporting ambitious, measurable climate and energy action, working with city regional networks, national governments, etc. And they have various initiatives. Summarizing, obviously I'm being very brief, but the reports are fairly brief as well, and you can read them in a couple of hours if you want to follow up. Because they represent the bulk of global energy and power use, cities are critical actors in the global energy transition. They fulfill a range of roles from target setters, regulators, and facility operators to financiers, facilitators, and awareness builders. Cities need to formulate long-term plans for their energy transition pathways. As many lead cities are already doing, with a variety of targets for increasing the share of renewables in the power mix as well as in the overall energy mix. Ambitious goals for clean electricity sources need to be underpinned with practical measures to facilitate such outcomes. Do I want to read all of this? Maybe not, right? So just say most directly, renewable power generation in the urban context can be done at utility scale, such as through solar PV, wind, or geothermal facilities. Methane is increasingly becoming a part of it. Utility scale renewable energy could be operated either by municipally owned companies or by private sector firms. We looked at cities that have invested in having their own energy companies as well to keep the monies in-house. Unlike in the age of fossil fuels, decentralized energy supply is now an additional and cost-competitive option, principally in the form of solar PV rooftop deployment. Okay, so costs are dropping. Initial investments costs can be financed by various mechanisms that we briefly discussed here, various incentives and so on. So understanding what works well and what is required for success technically, financially, institutionally and socially is key to scaling up the use of renewables in cities' power systems. Therefore, it's important that cities exchange experiences and lessons learned, as many of them increasingly do by way of peer-to-peer networks, and of course the 10,600 cities that are engaged through this Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. And there are of course Resilient Cities Plan and so on that was funded by Rockefeller Foundation. I don't know what the status is, but you can look them up as well. So there are bottom-up efforts to do these, and we will come back and look at buildings in the next podcast. This is already 22 minutes long. Even though I am brief, it is just a little longer than what I generally do in terms of just attention spans of people in listening to podcasts. Okay.